All right, before Ivy goes on to the next story, I want to just take a couple minutes to remind you of a couple things and then let you know what this next part of our training is going to look like. So, one of the things that we really want to stress that is different about this method is that as a facilitator, you are not the teacher. So, I know that's hard, especially if you're a pastor or a teacher. We're so used to preparing and having all this knowledge to give. But with this method, we really want to let our participants discover that together. We don't want to bring outside information. We're not pulling from other Bible stories or commentaries. We really want to focus just on the story that we're studying. And as you'll get to see in our, as we open up the spoken CBS curriculum, it builds on each other. So as you do more and more stories, we can look back at the stories we've already covered, but we don't want to pull from the New Testament or another book of the Bible, because remember, with this method, we may be reaching people who don't have Bibles. We may be reaching people who've never heard some of these stories before. And if I begin teaching and telling about something else, telling about this other Bible story or this other Bible character, that makes a person who doesn't really know the Bible go quiet. In our group, we talked about there was no wrong answer, and that made us feel like we could answer more, like we weren't afraid to give the wrong answer. But if somebody feels like they don't know as much as everybody else in the group, then that's one time when people will shut down. So we want to stay just in the story. We have to be careful as facilitators not to become teachers and tell them this is what you should learn from the story. We want to allow them to discover it. We talked about in our room that when we discover it, we remember it more. So that's a thing that we have to learn as you become facilitators in this, is not to take that teacher role. We also have sometimes when you'll call on somebody to answer and they know a lot of things. And sometimes when we call on them to answer, they try to become the teachers. And so as facilitators, we have to kind of stop that, because we don't want them to be the expert in the room and everybody thinks, oh, Palm is going to answer. I'll just let her answer because she knows all the answers. We don't want to have one person that's that way. So if you have someone in your group who takes over teaching, as a facilitator, you want to gently bring them back to the story, and you want to point out that we want to hear from all of us, that we're all discovering together, that we don't want anyone reading their Bible or reading the commentary and giving those answers. So does that make sense? The difference between a facilitator, what we want to do is facilitate, and a teacher who takes everything they've got and tells you the right answers. Do you understand the difference? Yes. Ray, did you have anything to add to that?
Let me just emphasize it again, because the whole first part of what we do is to break down the normal teacher mode, where everybody sits and listens to the teacher because the teacher's right. And so everything that we're doing is to turn that around and get, I heard the question, get everybody to become the teacher. The group is the teacher. We learn together. And so all of those steps of listening to the story carefully so you can tell each other, the two of you telling the story, hearing it again with intentional mistakes, laughing at the teacher who made the mistakes, correcting the teacher, all of that is to move that thing around and get everybody comfortable working together. If you then slip into teacher mode because you're teachers, you've taken that back. And it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do. As Jodi said, if you've been teaching for a long time, or if you're a pastor, pastors were the worst. We can just start preaching at the drop of a hat. So don't do that. and just remember, even if you have a great observation, but it comes from somewhere else, and as you're looking at screens, you see people nodding like, yeah, they know that. As Jodi said, there's going to be times when people are not going to know that. And whenever that comes up, they'll think, I don't remember that. Was that in the story? They're going to shut down. They won't participate anymore because they saw other people nodding and they think, oh, all these other people are smarter than me, so I'm just going to listen. And they're not going to get as much from it. So again, this is a shift in style, but it's really aimed at creating this conversation that you guys have been doing a great job at today. So we're all learning, and this is the first time. You guys are doing great. We just want to point out a couple of those little things to make it better.